I had a question on the SPAC concept. What's in it for the company that is, let's say they're able to go IPO, but they choose to be invested in by the SPAC instead? What's
Okay.
the advantage?
So it's currently at least $5 million to do an IPO, which if you raised $10 billion, 10 trillion, okay, if you raise $10 billion, 5 million is not a whole bunch of money, but it's still money. The process takes 6 months. It's very distractive. The CEO is going to be busy doing that for the next 6 months and not running the company. And so in the case of the SPAC path, if they go to company XYZ, well, XYZ can just be public tomorrow. If they just, negotiate a valuation, all they have to do is come to terms on a valuation, and then they're public the next day. And it didn't cost them any time to do that except the negotiation with Pershing Square. So that's a really good shortcut. It also gets rid of, if you look at the WeWork IPO offering, there was a whole lot of part of that process was opening up the kimono, showing off the internals, both financials and operations, to the public. And the embarrassment of how poorly that company was run is what did it in. And then the pandemic on top of that. But the way that the venture capitalists let Adam run the company was the death knell of that company. And so if the SPAC comes along, if the SPAC were earlier and it came along and it did WeWork, we would not have seen any of that. It just would have been public, and we would have read the first, what's that called? The first K10, Q10, but it wouldn't have disclosed absolutely as much as the S1 did, the public filing. And so it would have survived that jump, that leap. And then we don't know, because this isn't done enough, what it does to the share price. So part of the IPO process these days is the expectation and hope that there's a big pop, that there's a big leap in valuation on the first day. And so we'll see. We don't know that part, and the SPAC people have to be wary of overpaying because they don't want the share price to go down. But again, the public doesn't have much knowledge on day one of what this company is. All they have is the valuation paid by the SPAC. And so I presume the share price will just stay steady until the first filing comes out, which is quarterly. And so it may calm down the prices on the public part. And then it just comes with this gigantic, the last benefit would be, it comes with this humongous hedge fund that has access to billions and billions of dollars. And so if the company thinks it not only wants to be public, but wants access to a few $1 billion more, well, you're basically just getting some investors you're getting intros to investors who then own you. And that makes it easier to raise money.
Another question.
Yeah.
I've been involved in what is termed PPM, private placement memorandum.
Yep.
Primarily in real estate. How does that fit in comparison in the models you've got here?
Excuse me. So it is normal for a fund to issue a PPM. For everyone's knowledge, it's a disclosure document that it describes what the fund is going to do, who runs it, how much money is it raising, what's the terms of that, and what is the plan. So it's basically a business plan for a fund. But it turns out it's not required. It's not required by law to issue a PPM. So almost every fund does, but not every fund does.
So the idea of these pre-REIT organizations that buy up a bunch of commercial real estate and sell it in pieces, that is basically one type of this fund that you're talking about
Well, that's the kind of the equivalent of a PE fund. Right? They're buying properties and they're pulling them together in some way as a pooled vehicle, and then they're looking to exit that portfolio.
Okay.
So either they sell the portfolio to a public REIT, which is the equivalent of an acquisition in this world, or they themselves go public as a public REIT. And that's the equivalent of an IPO.
Okay.